You are now entering the sector of the Emerald Enthusiast. Clearance has been granted.
What's up, comic book fans? It's the Emerald Enthusiast of the Multiverse Musings Podcast Network, here with a special look at the Marvel Legends 12-inch Icons figure of Venom. So these figures hold so much sentimental value for me for a number of reasons. Now, first off, I just want to say that this Venom figure is the best Venom figure that I have ever seen, and I still think that. Now, I haven't been able to see the Bullet Head figure up close. I know that Hot Toys dropped a figure that is based on the movie version, but this is a 12-inch figure that captures Venom in all of his comic book based glory. And there's also a lot of memories that are tied to these figures that I do want to talk about here. But let's take a look at all of the aspects of these figures, both boxed and unboxed. And I can tell you a little bit about my history as a fan of the character. So if you follow me on Twitter or you have subscribed to my videos before, most people know me as a Green Lantern superfan. But it was actually another character from another comic that really was the bridge between my childhood fandom of comics and my adult fandom of comics. And believe it or not, it wasn't a Green Lantern character, because in 1988, we were still 6 years away from Kyle Rayner, who's my favorite Green Lantern and my favorite DC Comics character. The book that I read, I actually got it off a spinner rack in 1988. I was a teenager and I ran down right before church to a 7-Eleven and I picked up Amazing Spider-Man 300. And I was so immersed in this story that it really just made me a comic book fan for life. And of course, that was the first full appearance of Eddie Brock as Venom. And I just can't thank Todd McFarlane and David Micheline enough for, I just cherished that moment in time and what it's meant to my life. And so as a fan, I have to recommend good reading material. This is the Venomnibus #1. This collects a lot of his early stories, a lot of the minis that you saw in the 1990s, written by, again, the great David Micheline, one of his co-creators. And also, of course, this is the Venomnibus Volume 2. Now, these aren't cheap. These aren't the kind of things that you can buy on a whim. However, if you get used copies, you can probably find them at a much better price. But these collect a lot of Venom's early appearances, even some appearances outside of like the Spider-Man books. So I highly recommend these. And again, Amazing Spider-Man number 300, that's just a book that it really changed my life in a lot of ways, and it made me a comic book fan from my teenage years going forward. And in that time, I used to have a collection of Spider-Man, the old 5-inch Spider-Man figures. I believe they were 5-inch from the 1990s based on the animated series. However, I had sold those not long after college. And prior to 2006, I really wasn't aware of the whole Marvel Legends line, even though I was still reading comics. I really wasn't aware of the collectible world that much. And I remember seeing this for the first time at a Target, and I was just blown away by the upgrade in quality from what I saw in the 90s to this, which came out again in 2006. So let's delve a little bit into the details of this figure now. So for those of you who know your figures, this figure is from the ToyBiz era of the Marvel Legends. Now, you know that the license has changed hands over the years, but again, this is from 2006. And as I go through the articulation and the various other aspects of this figure, it will be obvious that this is from ToyBiz. So as we take a look at the lower extremities here, this is obviously ToyBiz and not Hasbro. Now, by no means am I suggesting that Hasbro doesn't have a magnificent line, because they most definitely do. However, for Venom, I just really like the old construction of the ToyBiz figures. So let's look at the molding and some of the other details. First off, I really like this. You have this mid-foot hinge here, which helps the figure posing. Got a nice ankle joint there. You also get this cut right here between the ankle and the calf muscle, and that means that you can turn the figure's feet very well. And again, you can do that obviously both sides. Something I really want to point out here, and I hope I can get a good shot of it. Let me adjust the light just a little bit here. This molding and this detail here, it doesn't just look like something that's material. This actually looks like human anatomy and something that is very alien over top of it, something kind of unnatural. And obviously, that's what you're going for with Venom. And that's why I think this works so well. It looks just kind of weird, and it looks kind of gooey and unsettling, and that's what they were going for here, and I just love that. So you also get with the knees here, you get this double joint that I think is really magnificent. And I will put this character, this figure in poses later on in this review, but I just really like how that looks. You don't see a lot of exposure for the plastic underneath. And again, that's one of the many reasons that I like this figure so much. So in taking a look at the quadriceps and the hip area here, there's a lot to like. Now, there is my one only complaint with this figure is these exposed joints here. They look just a little out of place. You can see they do look different from, the rest of the molding. Now, they do give the figure some really good articulation. So if you want to get him like a kicking pose like this, you definitely can do that. I wish they looked different. I will say that, but that's really my only criticism of this figure. There's also this hip articulation here. Now, obviously, that makes the spider symbol look a little weird, but again, going back to, the molding here, first of all, you can see all this detail in the quadriceps, and it looks like the symbiote flowing over Eddie Brock's anatomy, and that's exactly what you want as a Venom fan. And you can see, again, the molding here on the back with the hamstrings. Yeah, that just looks so good. So again, this is my only real criticism of these figures of this figure is this ball joint here. So in looking at the upper torso here, it's just magnificent. In addition to this swivel here, you also get this ab crunching motion here, and that really helps in getting the figure into various poses. Now, the paint application, again, it is just outstanding. You can see all the detail here, but at the same time, they didn't sacrifice molding to give themselves a smooth area to work on. You still see, the molding here in the abdominals and the pectoral muscles and, the ribs here. You see all of that, and the paint has been applied over that, and it just makes it look just really magnificent. And by the way, that goes all the way around here. You can see the detail in this. It's just magnificent. And up here, all this, the molding on the delt and the trapezius and the latissimus dorsi back here. You can see all of this. It's just really magnificent. And that's, again, I like modern takes on the figures, and I definitely don't mind the movie figure. I'm a huge fan of the movie. But the reason I love this so much is this has, Venom's original look with the Spider-Man logo. And that's definitely why I like this, why I favor this more than any other 12-inch figure. So as we have a look at the arm and the hand here, this is just, it's magnificent. First of all, you get this hinge here in the hand, but the pointer finger is actually on a different hinge than the other three fingers. And I just find that just endlessly cool. Of course, you have the wrist articulation, which I think is awesome. You get double jointed elbows. And again, it doesn't sacrifice any of that texturing through here. And again, you get this huge arm. You get this swiveling arm here. And again, lots of great definition in the biceps and the triceps here. It just moves so well despite this huge figure. And I mean, you can really get it to bend, really any way that you want. And again, I just think that is just absolutely magnificent for an Eddie Brock arm, Eddie as Venom. I just think that looks just perfect. So let me talk about the head sculpt now. I just think this is just absolutely outstanding. As you can see there, when I turn it, first of all, there's this movable jaw, this, mandible that moves up and down, which I think is just endlessly cool. Now, Todd McFarlane didn't originally draw Eddie Brock with, the exposed flesh and the kind of haphazard teeth. He did have teeth, but he was more human-looking in his original incarnation. But later on, Marvel kind of stuck with making him more monstrous-looking, and you see that reflected here. The texturing still runs through the eyes. You see this kind of white and gray wash that's been mixed in up here, and that gives a lot of detail to the figure. By the way, the tongue here, first of all, it's on like a swivel, so you can move it from side to side. And there's also a bendable wire in it. And now you do want to be careful. You don't want to pop the tongue out, but this wire gives you a lot of like posing options. I just think that's really cool. And I've also seen some customizers use like green paint or some glue to give him that green slobber look that so many people like about Venom, that he always has that kind of, green saliva pouring out of his mouth. By the way, recent revelation in the comics is that green saliva is actually waste material, and it comes out of his mouth. So you're welcome for that nightmare fuel. So anyway, stick around for the end of this video. I'm going to get the figure in more poses, and so you can see a closer look at the articulation. But for now, I want to talk about the other two figures that I still have mint in box. So there are actually two versions of this figure. I've been reviewing the masked version, and this is the unmasked version. As you can see here, the symbiote kind of peeling back to reveal the face of Eddie Brock. And I think they're equally magnificent, by the way. The only difference is the head sculpt, but you can see with this head sculpt, all the detail on Eddie's face here, the eyes, the anger in the brow, all of the wrinkles that have been sculpted in, yet you still see the symbiote, again, peeling back, and it gives you that look at Eddie's face, and I just think this is just a magnificent looking figure. I also like the construction of the packaging here. It has kind of this historical look to it, kind of a regal look to it. You see all of these symbols of Marvel characters, and of course it says over 30 points of articulation. In the back here, you actually see right behind the figure various Venom covers from over the years, like Venom and Spider-Man covers that Venom was on from over the years. I just think that looks really cool. And that motif, kind of like a Roman Colosseum type thing. It goes all the way around to the back. You actually get a comic book within this. Now, I've never had this open, and I don't intend to, so I've never actually read, this particular comic. But I love the way that looks, how it's framed within the back. And I also want to point out what makes this figure very special to me is at a Comic-Con 2 years ago, I was actually able to meet David Micheline and get his signature on this figure and really tell him, what this character has meant to me over the years. And that was a really special moment to me. By the way, stick around at the end. I'm going to post a picture of that meeting because I still have it, obviously. And he also signed this one for me. He was a very engaging individual, very gracious to his fans. So if you ever see his name at a Comic-Con, I would definitely recommend that you go meet Mr. David Micheline, the co-creator of Venom. And before I finish this segment, I also want to point out both of these figures. This is what kind of reignited my love of action figure collecting. I actually, again, as I hinted early on in the video, I really wasn't aware of a lot of the comic book collectibles at the time, even though I was reading comics. And it was actually my 3-year-old daughter, she was 3 years old at the time, who really recognized, how much enthusiasm I had when I saw these. And she made sure that her mother got these for me for Christmas that year. So that's why these figures are so dear to me, because not just meeting David Micheline, but the fact that, my daughter recognized the fanboy in me and said, yeah, I need to get these for Dad for Christmas. So I love you, baby. I don't know if she want me to mention her name here or not, but I love you, baby. Thank you so much. I cherish these so much. And in addition to the fact that all of that, the figure is just a quality figure. So I recommend to everybody to go ahead and pick up one of these 12-inch Venom figures. So let's look at some of the poses that you can get this figure into. I hope you have enjoyed this review. If so, please like and subscribe. Remember to check out the work of the legendary Mr. David Micheline. And if you want to check me out, you can find me on Twitter as the Emerald Enthusiast. You can also find me right here on YouTube as part of the Multiverse Musings vidcast. And I'll be back to the internet with more comic book related content soon. But until we meet again, this has been the Emerald Enthusiast, and thanks for watching.